hello, friends. Hello, friends.
A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer. Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
This is the 19th Tee podcast. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Drudy back with you for another week. Drew's really excited about our guest this evening. He's yet another off the production line of talent here in my backyard in Queensland. They've picked him out of the nursery that is the Queensland Academy of Sport. He's come through with the likes of Jed Morgan, Louis Dobler, Elvis Smiley, and has made the decision to turn professional all pretty much the same time. I speak, of course, of Lawry Flynn. He's coming off the back of a great top 20 performance, including a couple of back-to-back rounds in the 60s on Friday, Saturday at the Australian PGA. Big summer ahead, Drews, and certainly a very exciting talent on our hands.
Absolutely, yeah. Really interesting chat with Lawry. Really down to earth, really funny dude as well. So I'm sure our listeners will enjoy this one.
Here he is, Lawry Flynn. Lawry, thanks for joining us and thanks for taking some time to be on the 19th Tee podcast.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat. Yeah.
First and foremost, we just mentioned there in the introduction an impressive weekend for you, particularly Friday, Saturday at the Australian PGA. How was that? Obviously, playing out of the Brisbane Golf Club, usually, I think a healthy rivalry with Royal Queensland here in Queensland circles, but obviously a fantastic opportunity for you to get out there in the premier tournament for the Australian summer. So how do you reflect on your performance at the PGA?
Yeah, look, it was my first taste of, a big event as a professional. Like, I've obviously played in two national level events as an amateur, the Australian Open and the Malaysian Open. And it's a little bit different playing as a professional. It's a little bit more on the line. You're playing for your career now. It's your livelihood. So it's just different feelings, a bit more buzz. I've had a few members following me for the week because obviously, Brisbane's just down the road. So you had probably 30 to 50 members out there each day following me, supporting me. So, yeah, it was great. Yeah.
You mentioned that different feeling. Was it apparent to you more so at times than others? Like, was it on certain holes? Was it when you maybe went on a bit of a bad run, consecutive holes? Like, when were you kind of catching yourself going, shit, this is a little bit different now. It's a bit more at stake as a pro.
It was definitely in round one there. It got away from me. I hit two poor shots, like one on hole 9 and then one on hole 10. They both cost me doubles. And I just watched, the round slip away under my feet. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. This is, we've got to do something here to get this back. So that's definitely one thing that I noticed. I was pretty under the pump when that happened. Job now, you have to suck it up and do well. So it was hard to turn that around.
But you did, mate. You did turn it around. Next day, 68. Next day, 65. Really impressive. And then even par in the final round. What sort of clicked overnight, I guess? You started with a 4 over 75, but then 7 shots better the next day, and then a couple of shots better come Saturday.
Yeah, look, one thing I did was I just analysed the round like I do after most rounds. And RQ is a golf course where you can't hit it short-sided. And unfortunately, in that first round, I found myself on the short side a considerable amount, and it was just so hard. It's probably the one course all year that if you're hitting it short side, you're not getting up and down. Whereas you can get away with it on some courses because the greens are a bit softer and not as elevated. So that was the one thing that I changed going into the second and third round was hit it onto the fat side of the green, respect the holes for what it was, because the approaches, like, a lot of those par fours, you're hitting mid to long irons in. It's quite a difficult approach course, I guess, yeah.
What do you make of Jed Morgan's win, mate? Incredibly impressive. As I said, we apologise for being a bit late, but we just got caught up talking about Jed for the best part of 45 minutes. I mean, uber impressive performance. What do you take away from that?
Oh, mate, it's awesome. He's a flusher, I'll tell you. We together for the last 5 years. good to, practice with him, go to tournaments together. And, it's great to see, some of these boys doing so well. Like Jed, can't believe it. He obviously won an Oz Amateur at RQ. Was it 2 years ago? I think it was. And it was just one of those things. I sort of went into the week thinking Jed had a pretty good chance of winning. And look where it's got to, he's blowing the field away.
You enter that week. You've played RQ before. You're relatively familiar with the course. Is for you, and it's tough to put yourself in anyone else's shoes, but is 22 under, you think, in the thinking at all? Like, of what you know of that course, of what you have to do to score, an average of, 6 under per round, essentially. Is it in the thinking that's what you're looking at potentially at the end of a week?
So before I played the course for obviously the tournament this week, I could see that score because they've actually extended like 3 or 4 of the holes a considerable amount. Like they've gone from 400 to 450 meters, and it's just added. I feel like it's added maybe 2 to 2.5 shots to the golf course, and especially when they changed hole 10 to a par 5, I didn't think 20 under was possible at all. With the way that it's set out now. So it's pretty incredible that he's obviously broken 20 under. Like he's a step above the rest, his performance. So, yeah.
How, and you talk about, you've played with him essentially for the last 5 years. There's a group of you now kind of making this next step all together. It's yourself, it's Jed, it's Louis Dobler, it's Elvis Smiley. You've all come kind of through that enormous QAS production line. Do you take any sort of comfort in going through that journey now with a group of guys you spent so much time with in the last couple of years, and you kind of all making that leap at the same time?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Obviously, all of us turning pro at the same time is a bit more of a buzz, I guess, amongst, the younger guys coming into the tour, and we're all sort of, I guess, dominating, I guess you could say. If you look at the last 3 tournaments, it's been Jack Thompson, Blake Windred, and obviously Jed's won the Oz PGA. So you're looking at 3 young, I guess, first-time winners, and they're all young 20-year-olds. So, it's pretty cool. Golf's exciting. There's a lot of young guys out there at the moment, and they're all performing. So it's pretty cutthroat on the Aussie tour, I must say. Yeah.
Mate, take us back to the very beginning, as we do with all of our guests. Take us back to your first memories of golf. How did you get into the game? Yeah,
so I grew up living on a property just outside of Dalby. Family lived on a farm, and Dad played a bit of golf on the weekends amongst his accounting job. And I don't know, I was 9 years old, and I just grabbed one of his clubs out of his bag and just started smacking it around the farm, smacking balls around the farm. So that's how I got into it. And then Dad took me along. I walked around with him for 9 holes one Saturday morning and went, gee, this is pretty cool, a bit different to some of the other sports I've done. And just continued on from there, I guess, yeah.
How'd you take to the game? Easy game to pick up for yourself, or like most of us, probably struggle with the clubs for a little while anyway?
It was, I don't know, for me, because I grew quite fast. Like I was a pretty tall kid, a bit stronger. So I found golf quite easy from the get-go, I guess, just because I was strong enough to hit it and get into playing 18 holes pretty quick. So, yeah, look, it was, you've played cricket, you've played tennis, you've done athletics, you're an all-round sort of sports kid, and then you take up golf and it's, I don't know, it's on the easy side, I guess. But once you start getting better, it gets harder. So, yeah.
Must be nice. You mentioned, Lawry, that you grabbed Dad's clubs. Is Dad a lefty?
Yeah, he's a lefty as well, yeah.
It's this is going to sound strange, and I remember having this conversation when we spoke to Elvis Smiley. For something that's relatively common in a walk of life in terms of people being left-handed golfers seem to be like hen's teeth. Obviously you've got Phil's I suppose he's the pinnacle, but There's not a lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, but did you play with Adam Bland on the Thursday, Friday at the PGA? Because I remember watching your group and there was two lefties in the same group. Is that correct?
Yeah. Played with Adam Bland the first 2 days. He's a lefty sponsored by Ping, so I'm sponsored by Ping as well. So it was pretty funny. Two lefties, both sponsored by the same.
I had to do a double take because I think I picked you up coming off the back of 11 and then on to 12. Sidebar, unreal hole, and I think you guys as lefties might have had even the better approach off that tee. But it was almost like you literally teed off one after the other, and seeing two lefties in the wild, so to speak, is just so strange, to be honest.
I don't know. When I first started golf, lefties were very rare, and obviously getting clubs was pretty hard.
Especially up in Dolby.
Get the pick of the bunch when it comes to left-handed clubs, and it's really funny. I feel like it's been the last few years that I've seen a lot more lefties out playing golf. I reckon it's just cricketers have taken up the sport in the last few years because of COVID. Like, because I work at Drummond Golf. That's where I was working before I turned professional, and you see a lot of the new golfers coming in through there getting clubs, and definitely a higher percentage of lefties in the last 2 years, I reckon.
Take us on the journey, because now we know the foundations, and the foundations is smacking the ball around the property outside of Dolby, and we know that we got to the QAS. So fill the gaps for us, because I don't imagine that the pathway is all that obvious from Dolby to making your way to the QAS and ultimately becoming a professional golfer. We've spoken countless times about country golf on this podcast and how great it is, but if you're a young burgeoning player in the country, often your path is a lot more difficult than those afforded more opportunities in the city. So take us on that journey of your progression and when it started to click that, larger opportunities might be afoot.
Yeah, so like growing up in the country, I just went to school and hit balls around the farm and then played golf on the weekends, at Dolby when I was a kid. And then you sort of get to play the one golf course and you keep spinning around in circles playing the one course, and it gets quite, repetitive. And it's not very hard. Country golf's pretty easy. You've just got fairways and greens and they're all flat and it's pretty short courses. So, I had to, when I got a little bit better, Dad joined me up at Toowoomba Golf Club, which is Middle Ridge. Obviously a tougher course, a bit tighter. Played in the junior pennants there, progressed to the men's Div 1 pennants when I was 14 or 13 at the stage, playing Div 1, number 2 position. And then from there, that was when I sort of realised that, I needed to push the needle a bit and, get into a club in Brisbane. Because whenever I used to go to Brisbane, I used to suck. Going from country golf to proper courses in Brisbane, you used to just shoot 90, quite regularly. You'd have really high rounds. So it was like, wow, I got to learn to play these types of courses. So that was, I joined Brisbane Golf Club in 2012, just to learn to play better courses. And that was one of the things that was hard, was you only got to play it on the weekend because you'd have to drive from Dolby to Brisbane, 3-hour trip. So, thankful for my parents for doing that as a kid. It was a pretty big commitment for them to drive me down to Brisbane to play golf every weekend. So, yeah, credit to them.
Just FYI, Marshy'd give his left nut to shoot 90 at Brisbane Golf Club.
Brisbane, goodness me. Oh, my word.
Lawry, you've mentioned your mum and dad a few times there. I guess they've probably played a massive part in your career, physically driving you to the golf course, as you mentioned. Are they sort of the constants that have been there? We'll get to your decision to turn pro in a little bit, but are they sort of the constants, people who have been there along your journey?
Yeah, they've been along the journey for, basically the whole time. Like, they were very active when I was a junior and still at school. Someone would have to take me to a tournament generally, that was the case. They drive me to Brisbane because you don't have a license. But once I got into the QAS, that once I finished school, I was basically, I guess free for a sense that I'd moved to Brisbane and started to practice on a golf course every day as opposed to just hitting balls on the farm. That was a bit of a turning point, learning to see whether or not I could actually do this for a career. Because obviously you don't really know. You've come off a farm, you're reasonably good, you've posted a couple of decent results, but you don't know whether you can do it for a job because you see all these guys that are playing, they're all unreal. So I guess I was a little bit delayed in the process because of coming from the country and having to, I guess, start my elite golf once I finished school.
Was there a moment for you, and I'm trying to word this in a way that won't sound condescending, because it's definitely not meant that way, because you just strike me as a very typically country, humble, unassuming guy. So you mentioned that step up that you need to take. Was there ever a moment where you're the kid from Dalby coming into the Brisbane Golf Club, one of the most prestigious golf clubs in Southeast Queensland, which I'm sure can be a little bit daunting at times if you're coming from out of town, and then making that step up into the QAS, where you talk about the guys that have had a bunch of opportunities or probably understood the step up a little earlier than yourself? Was there ever a time that you doubted yourself? And if that's the case, what was the kind of the light bulb moment, and maybe who was around you giving you that reassurance that no, it might take you a little longer, but you absolutely belong here?
Yeah, look, it was probably Tony Meyer. He was the head of QAS, the golf program, when I, first got into it. He obviously believed in my ability and where I could get to with my golf. And I guess he was a pretty big reason of why I got the opportunity to join QAS full time as one of their athletes after school. So, I guess I was given the opportunity coming from the country to, move to Brisbane and develop my golf. And I felt like there was probably 2 to 3 years of really good learning, learning to become a tournament player, not just a good player. Yeah. So, and then after that, obviously, once you get a little bit better, you get better opportunities, you get to play in some professional events, and then it all just keeps, rolling on from there. Just more opportunities keep coming. So I guess I was lucky that I was given the opportunity, because not many kids from the country get that opportunity. So, pretty thankful.
It'd be remiss of us not to talk about the 2017 club championships at Brisbane GC, where I think probably dominance, the word that comes to mind, in the 36-hole final, an 8-6 victory at the Brisbane GC, mate. That's a pretty impressive performance in probably something that I'm sure you hold very close to your heart, being crowned the club champion there at Brisbane.
Yeah, no, that was pretty special. Like I could never seem to time the schedule good to play in a club champs, just because there was always, some sort of tournament on, like Golf Australia ranking event on at the same time, because they do the qualifying rounds and then they have the match play, which is all 36 holes. So, it was pretty good, that final. I actually played against one of the other QAS players, Stephen Cox. He was a member of Brisbane as well. And, so it wasn't a pushover, that's for sure. Coxie was a pretty good player. So 8-6, that was probably the time where I was starting to play some of my better golf, like starting to get better.
Then we fast forward just sort of a couple of years, and there's you take the plunge to sort of playing over in Asia, and 2019 was a really good year for yourself. We'll get to your victory at the Malaysian Amateur Open, but the one I just wanted to touch on there was the Taiwan Amateur Golf Championship. You finished fourth with a score of 9 under, but I believe, if I'm doing my research right, that you fought through a pretty severe bout of food poisoning in that tournament. Can you maybe tell us that story? How the hell did this come about? Just take us through what that was like in Taiwan.
Yeah, look, that was probably one of my worst weeks, if I'm not going to lie. I didn't enjoy it one bit, but I still managed to play good. Like that first day, felt fine. What was the go with that course is the warm-up took nearly 2 hours because the driving range was like a 30-minute bus trip down the road. So it was strange. The warm-up felt so long, and I was fine before the warm-up, and then after the warm-up, you're standing on the first tee, and I felt really crook. I think I played 3 holes, and it was just no good. You know, jumping in the official cart, going to the whatever bathroom was there. I think I had 3 holes in a row where I was just crook as a dog, and it was just ugly. And thankfully, we had a rain delay. I was able to go into the clubhouse, got some meds, and I guess blocked myself up, and I was good to go for the round. But the problem with it was 40 degrees, and when you're sick and it's 40 degrees and it's just finished raining, I just remember I got home that night and I'd lost 6 kilos. So it was,
Wow.
You know, to go on and come fourth that week, it was crazy. Yeah.
That's quite phenomenal. Yeah, no, that doesn't sound fun at all. Being that crook, particularly in a foreign country, it's not. It's certainly not pleasant. Same year, the Malaysian Amateur Open, holding a very nice trophy over there in Malaysia. That must have been such an incredible week for yourself to be, I guess, walking away with the trophy, knowing that, I guess maybe in your words, what did that mean to you? And then was it a sense of, right, I can actually do this. I'm a boy from Dalby. I can go over and beat it with the best overseas.
Yeah, no, it was, for me, I'd always been that player that's come, you know, solid top 10, top 5s, 3rds, 4ths, you know, like I never actually won any of the 4 rounds up until then. So for me, it was a bit of a monkey off the back moment. Like, obviously, a national amateur open, the Malaysian amateur open, it was, you know, pretty big event overseas. You know, what was it, like 3rd or 4th trip overseas? So quite a big moment. I'm pretty proud of myself for, you know, claiming that title. And it was, I guess, relieving in a sense that I could do it and I was good enough. I mean, moving from there, I actually felt like I changed as a golfer. I was a lot more confident, able to play under the pressure a lot better, and there's definitely some results since then that, you know, I put that Malaysian result down to. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the decision to turn pro, but there's probably a question in a few parts here, and I think it segues nicely off the back of what you're talking about, because you do have a number of good results, whether it's the ones on the Asian Tour, particularly the Malaysian one you've just spoken about. You've got some really good results here at home in things like, you know, state amateurs or Capera Bowls, things like that. But what's at that stage, what's holding you back from making that ultimate decision to turn pro? Is there something specifically you're waiting for? Is it a matter of, I think I need to show myself a couple more consistent results? Like when you're in that mindset of playing quite good at the amateur level, what is it that you think you're necessarily waiting for to ultimately make that jump?
I guess for me, I wanted to be able to know that I could compete against the guys on the tour. And, you know, you can qualify for some of the professional events as an amateur. You can go to a pre-Q or like I was luckily, because of that Malaysian Open win, I was able to play in an Oz Open. A lot of the other Tier 2 events in Australia, like the NTPGA, I got into that. The Malaysian Open, the Asian Tour event, I got into that because of a Malaysian amateur win. So, you know, I wanted to be able to see if I could step up and compete against those guys, because at the end of the day, there's no point turning pro unless you're able to play and compete. You know, like you don't want to be just scratching around making cuts. You actually want to be up there in the top 20, top 5, competing for the tournament. So that was, for me, that was the main goal, was to show some results, and not just one. I wanted to see a few solid results like that to just imprint in my mind that once I did turn pro, I was definitely ready. Yeah. So for me, that was the reasoning.
And then obviously that's happened, right? So you get there and you understand what's at stake in your mind. You know that you're getting here to prove to yourself that you can perform. So do you remember a particular moment where, I don't know, you'd satisfied that criteria in your head, or you thought, okay, well, I've done the work now? Because I'm looking at the timing of turning pro, right, comes kind of like at the back of a really unprecedented 18 months, particularly for golf. Like it was hard through that kind of 2020 up until you make the decision in June of 2021 to turn pro. So I'm sure there's probably a number of moments in that time when you're not knowing when tournaments are scheduled or what's going to happen, no consistency in what's ahead of you, where you think, shit, I don't know if I can pull the trigger yet.
Yeah, look, for me, I played in the NTPGA and I came third. Brett Rankin won it that year. I was playing in the final group. That was one of the moments where I went, yeah, I'm pretty ready for turning pro. And then I played the Malaysian Open in one of the last few groups, and I was in the top 10 with a few holes to go, and I ended up like filtering. I think I came 16th that week. So in a major event, that to me was like, bang, I'm ready. I can guys. And I was keen on doing, Asian Tour School and Australian Tour School in the same period. Like, I guess they were fairly close together. So I wanted to do those two after that Malaysian Open. That was basically the turning point for me for, I'm ready. But obviously COVID hit. We got back from that Malaysian Open just before all the borders shut with COVID. So I've been chomping at the bit, wanting to try and play professionally since then. And it's only been up until recently where I've been able to, get my tour card and get going. It's been quite a weird period sitting around waiting.
Well, it was definitely worth the wait because you won on your pro debut. Mate.
Yeah.
Pretty simple game sometimes, isn't it? Just turn pro, win first event out at the Maroochy River Pro-Am. Take us there. What's that moment like? Were you nervous going into your professional debut? Was it any different to being an amateur? Any sort of different feelings? And then I guess walking off knowing that you got a share of the lead.
Yeah, you'd be lying if you said you weren't nervous. Obviously, it's the first time you're playing for cash. So,
yeah.
I know it's only a Pro-Am, but it still had a lot of meaning because it's your first time playing for money. Like, it doesn't matter if it was a tour event or a Pro-Am or whatever. It was the first event that I played. And I just remember going out there and playing really solid. I had my partner, Asher, caddying for me, and we work really good together. We've had a few events beforehand. So, I don't know, I was pretty relaxed after the first tee shot. I was pretty nervous on the first tee shot. And then, yeah, I think I birdied the second last hole to move to a share of the lead and was like, wow, shit, this is awesome.
What's that moment like after, you're holding a share of the trophy, I guess, but what's that moment like? Is it just relief or are you so ecstatic that you've just won on pro debut? Like what's that moment? Are you having 45 beers? What's the go?
No, I didn't really have 45 beers. I was pretty happy because, it's been a long time coming to make some cash out of golf. Like, you've cash over the years of playing in those pro events, third, and the guy that comes fourth gets all your money. So it was nice to take it home.
Yeah, my word, it would be.
I must admit, just banking some coin. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what does 2022 hold for you, mate? I guess you, as you said, you've got your card locked up for the year and playing across the PGA Tour of Australasia. Great event over the weekend at the Aussie PGA. And I guess what does 2022 hold? What are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve?
The goals for me, I definitely want to, we've got 7 events in the next 9 weeks on the Aussie Tour, which is exciting. I'm glad that, after all of what's happened in the last few years, the boys on the Aussie Tour have been able to get, a decent run of events and some new events as well. So I think it'll be really competitive these next few weeks, and for me, I've been, in the top 5 before in a tier 2 event. I definitely want to win one of those tier 2 events coming up. I feel like I've got the game to do it. I just got to get out there and play them. So that's one of my goals. And then the other goal is pretty much straight after that 9 weeks. I'm going over to PJ Tour Canada Q School. So that's one of the next goals, I guess, coming out of the back of those Aussie events is getting my Canada, tour card wrapped up. Yeah.
What sort of planning goes into that sort of trip for you? I mean, it's not the type of thing where you go, right, I'm going, I'll be back in, well, hopefully not back in 2 weeks. If you're going, you've put all your chips on the table. So what sort of planning have you looked at in terms of, what, if any, team you take with you, how you set yourself up when you're over there? Do you have connections over there? I imagine it's something you put a reasonable amount of planning into because it's something you want to get right. There's a lot on the line. Yeah,
there is a lot on the line. The mistake I made going to the Aussie Tour School was I didn't take a caddy. I just didn't. Obviously, I'd never played one, so I didn't know what to expect. And when I got there, I was like, I think I was 2 or 3 rounds in going, wow, this is probably the hardest week of my life. If I don't get my card, I'm sitting around doing nothing essentially sitting around waiting another 12 months for what I want to do. So, that's one thing that, the Canada, it's actually in the US because you can't play golf in Canada during that time of the year. So for that tour school, I'm going to take my partner Asher over with me. Someone that's been on the bag and worked. That's the main planning. Obviously, you've got the allocation of where you get sent to because they have like 6 or 7 events in the top 9 from each course gets through, basically. So, you just sort of get allocated into one of those spots and you just got to go and do it. Yeah.
You've mentioned Asher a few times. I want to ask you about the working relationship because you said it's a fantastic one, and I admire your ability to get along with your partner in the workplace, something I had struggled with previously myself, Lawry. How do you, I suppose, A, have a clear line of delineation between what's happening on the course and what's happening at home? And then B, what's the chain of command and decisions? Because I was recently listening to an interview with Tommy Fleetwood, and I didn't know this until this point, but his wife is actually his manager. And that seemingly is a relatively manageable relationship because it's off course. But this is like indecision. This is critical. Like, what club am I pulling here, Asher? What do I need? There's a lot on the line in these conversations. And I think it's remarkable. You guys, I watched it firsthand, worked so well at RQ on the weekend, the PGA, but just take me inside that. What probably first of all thought, we'll give it a crack. Why not put you on the bag and see how it goes? And clearly it's become a success that it's something you're going to continue now into the future.
Yeah, definitely for the major ones, I'll continue with it. It's awesome, right? Like, she's just come out of a traineeship in the last few years. She's now the assistant professional at Brisbane Golf Club. She obviously knows a bit about golf and, obviously been together for 5 years. She's seen me at golf tournaments and how I operate and, she's probably the best person I've ever had on the bag caddying. So for me, it's really comforting. I guess we don't really argue that much, which is probably a good thing. If we're going to obviously work together on the golf course caddying and then going home together, that's one thing that, I appreciate is that we don't really argue out on the golf course because that's one thing that can really affect the golf. So, yeah, I guess we both make equal decisions. It wasn't really, one's over the top of the other. It was just a collective group. Yeah.
Mate, what do you get up to away from the course? What's Lawry Flynn like away from the course?
Look, obviously I had a part-time job working at Drummond before turning pro, but now, I've basically gone full-time golf because there's so much on the schedule. But the other thing for me is cycling is probably my biggest focus, I guess, completely out of golf. And for me, that's, I don't know, it's like a reset button. It's like a refresh, you know, just, you go for a ride and everything, you forget about everything that you do. You're just so focused into riding. I ride road bikes. I'm not a mountain bike rider at all. It's just, yeah, it's all on the road and it's all pretty fast and it's all fun. So yeah, that's my break away from golf. Obviously you've got your partner as well. You spend time with them, you know, like Asher, I spend quite a bit of time with on days off. So yeah, that's my life away from golf.
Tell us about the 1978 Mini Muck.
Yeah, so as a kid growing up, my granddad lived on the same property. We had 2 houses on the same property. And he was like a second dad, you know, having him there on the farm. And I guess for me, you know, I'd finish school, I'd go home, I'd tinker in the work shed with him because he was always doing up and restoring old cars, and because that was what, you know, his passion. He loved cars. And as a 12-year-old, I, you know, obviously, you know, pretty mature 12-year-old, he bought me that car as like a little project. So, you know, we painted it, we did up a few little things on it, got it drivable, and I drove that around the farm. So as a 12-year-old, I'm there learning to, you know, fix panels and paint it and, you know, do a little bit of work on the engine to get it running. So it was, yeah, probably some of my best childhood memories was, you know, in the shed working with Baz, you know, doing stuff with cars. So not too many kids at that age got to do stuff like that. And I definitely learnt a lot from those years, yeah.
I noticed, mate, and it's obviously a little bit further down the Instagram feed, but you lost your grandfather last year, and very sorry for your loss, mate, but just the way that you've told that story must be a beautiful memory for you every time you get the opportunity to go home, to pull the old Mini Moke out of the shed and probably take your mind back to those formative years.
Yeah, look, it was pretty hard last year, you know. He was very fit. Very fit, and it was a bit out of the blue. It's quite shocking for the whole family, to be honest, and it, you know, it still affects me, you know, every few weeks. Like, it just hits you pretty hard, and you do remember all the good things you do together. That's the one thing that I've tried to make sure that I've done, is I remember all the good memories we've had. You know, there's a lot there because I lived on the same property as him. So yeah, and it's good. You know, I've got that as a pretty raw memory, and I'll keep that forever. It's not something that I want to just, you know, flog off. It's definitely a memory, you know, from my childhood. Yeah. One thing that I've promised to myself is when I make some, you know, decent coin on the course, I want to get it, you know, roadworthyable. It's pretty hard to get one of those things roadworthyable. So that's definitely one of the things that I want to do to honour my granddad. He'd love to see me do that. So, yeah.
I'm sure he'd be very proud of you, mate. I'm sure he's definitely sitting on your shoulder as you're out on the course and in the Mini Moke. But the last one for me, mate, is just about going home. How often do you get home? How nice it is to get back to Dalby? And probably most importantly, do your mates in Dalby do a good job at keeping your feet on the ground? Because they wouldn't want to let, you know, the city slicker lifestyle and the big hotshot golfer get too big a head. So I'm sure when you get back to Dalby, they do a pretty good job at cutting you back down to size.
Yeah, I don't know. You can't really take the country out of me, I guess. Dalby, yeah. I don't think liquor lifestyle is going to ever affect me. But no, I get back to your question. I do get home, you know, amongst tournaments and, you know, at the time working, you know, it was always you get back for a birthday or, you know, main days like Christmas and Easter. You try and make the trip out there as much as you can. Obviously, you don't get to go out there as much as you would like because you're away traveling so much. But, you know, the times that I go out there, it's, quite refreshing. It's just so different to living in Brisbane. You're basically sitting on a property and your closest neighbour's 2 Ks as the crow flies. So you can literally do whatever you want. Yeah. You can drive the cars around the farm. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
And hit an absolute shit ton of golf balls, which is where you've got to, where you got, mate. It's been awesome to spend a bit of time with you and hear the Lawry Flynn story. Like many, it feels as though it's just beginning. And, your performances to date have been exceptional. And we're very much looking forward to seeing what the future holds, not just for the next probably 7 or 8 weeks, but most importantly, when you take the flight overseas and go and try and get that card over in Canada. So thanks for spending a bit of time with us. We wish you the very best of luck and look forward to keeping an eye on the journey.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, boys. Appreciate spending the time. Yeah.